automatic crafting, new cool blocks, hidden structure, weird mob spawner, new redstone mob, and much more. Hello there, Ray here, and Minecraft Live just finished announcing everything that's going to be new in the 1.21 update. Plus, I'll be telling you some secrets about 1.20 that weren't publicly announced in Minecraft Live. So leave a like as we take a look at the very first thing. Automated crafting is coming to Minecraft with this new block called the Crafter. It looks a bit wooden as well as some stony parts on it, kind of like a furnace mixed with a crafting table. And on top of it, we can see that there is the clear 3x3 grid that the crafting table uses, but it's all redstone-y like. And when you look inside of it, it has the 3x3. So if you have nothing in your hand and you click on these individual slots, you can enable as well as disable them. This will let the crafter know what design you're trying to craft. So by disabling different slots, you don't have to worry about the hoppers accidentally putting items in these slots here, and you only have to worry about them filling in these slots here. They're probably going to be put in just like they would like a dropper, from the top left to the bottom right. So the first item would go into the first top slot, and then the next one go down here, and the next one go down here. Then once it's an item that I can actually craft, it will show up on the right hand side. And once it has items that can actually be crafted, all you need to do is power it with some redstone, and this will cause it to activate and automatically craft the materials within it into the item that you chose. So here you can see the crafter facing into this barrel here. Items are automatically being put into these hoppers, going into the slots, and then every time they get powered by redstone, it shoots the item into the barrel and where it gets stored. So the crafter doesn't actually need any type of power, like it doesn't need any fuel, doesn't need like blaze rod powder like a brewing stand does, but it just needs to be powered with redstone. And every time it gets powered, this little red arrow here will light up. Notice that the lever over here is turned up, but when the lever is pulled down, then it turns red. You can use these to craft complex items, such as like having one crafter produce a bow, and then have that crafter spit the bow out into another crafter, which then can craft a dispenser. But not only can you put items into the crafter using a hopper and droppers, but you can also pull items out. When it comes to redstone, it's going to be kind of like a brewing stand. You need to be careful on which items go into it in which order. So using some smart circuitry, you can time it just right to get exactly what you want. And from what they show, it looks like you can put more than one item in each slot, even though when hoppers push items into it, they automatically put the second iron into the second slot rather than putting 2 irons in the first one. But maybe once the crafter is full of items, then it will allow you to stack more items on top of them. This will make the redstone in automatic crafting much easier. So once you have the outline put into the crafter, either manually or using some smart redstone, then after that you could just constantly push items in using hoppers, and they should automatically stack with the items that are already there. As long as you don't trigger it too many times so that you accidentally lose the very first items they put in there, which are kind of used as a template, you should be fine to constantly reuse this crafter very easily just by having some hoppers pointing into it. So what are the limitations of the crafter? Well, it can actually craft anything that you can craft inside of a crafting table. So if you want to make a lot of those really complicated fireworks stars that have all sorts of designs, this is the perfect way to do it. But they currently haven't added any like recipe book onto this, where you can choose what type of crafting recipe they want to go for, but they are talking about it. And the game will keep track of the item and not necessarily the durability or the name or the extra stuff that's on the item. So if you have like a broken enchanted bow and you want to use them to make dispensers, the crafter will have no problem understanding those bows are used in your crafting recipe to make dispensers. Not because you can put in certain items and then automatically pull out those items. You might think you could use it to sort items, but it's still not going to be as functional as a hopper, as a hopper can pull items from like a water stream up above it, where the crafter itself can't pull items out of the air. An automatic crafter is something we wanted for so long. A lot of mods have these type of things, but we never had anything close to it in vanilla survival. I have designed automatic crafting systems, which would know exactly which items to drop to the player and in which amounts for the player to easily craft up stuff. But this will actually craft the items without having to have the player at all. This is going to be so cool to have so much more automation, and will help with my Farm Everything series, where I'm trying to make an automatic farm to get every single item in the game. I'm currently over 95% to completing this goal, but if we look at this column here, a large chunk of all items can only be acquired through a manual interface like trading or crafting. That means now we can actually make systems to automatically produce all these items straight from the farms where they come from. So to get cherry things, you would build my automatic cherry farm and then put the crafter underneath it to automatically convert it into whatever wood thing you're using a lot of. And you can set it up so it only crafts a certain amount before it shuts off, and that way you can always have the perfect amount of supplies, so whenever you need it, you can just go to the chest and it's just sitting there ready for you to use. This will be amazing for my Farm Everything series, because now you can truly actually get these items in those forms, rather than just having to get the raw materials and calling that good enough. So look forward to all the cool videos where I'm going to use this crafter to do all sorts of automation. And maybe we can finally reach 100% of completing the Farm Everything series. What ideas do you have for this crazy block? And do you have any other questions or concerns related to it? Copper bulbs have been added into Minecraft. These are our new light source, which actually oxidize over time. So here we can see an oxidized version, and then you can use your axe on it to deoxidize it just like you do with copper. And once completely cleaned off, it returns to the lovely copper color. But not only that, it also produces different amounts of light depending on how oxidized it is. Notice how dim and how dark the lighting looks on this, and then when it gets cleaned off, it looks a little bit brighter. And then when it's completely cleaned off, it's really bright and also produces more light around the area. So this is a bit like when there's different amounts of candles or sea pickles, it produces different amounts of light levels. The light bulb itself looks a little bit like the redstone lamp, with some pieces that are kind of holding it together with parts of it where the light actually shines through. And just like copper, you can actually apply wax to it. That way it never changes its light level. Now you probably notice that the new bulbs are on without actually having any redstone attached to them. This is because unlike redstone lamps, they don't need power to stay on. But they're different than other lanterns that they don't always turn on. They start out by being off, and then when you give them a redstone pulse, they turn on. And then if they're given another redstone pulse, they would turn back off again. So it's actually a toggleable block. So this will be really useful on redstone, and they said they're going to also add it so that comparators can read the output. So you make a really compact T flip-flop. When before, T flip-flops are usually done with giving a piston a short pulse in Java Edition. That same mechanic is not in Bedrock Edition, so it's possible that they can remove this mechanic, bringing a parity between Java and Bedrock just a bit closer. Do you like the light bulb, even though it don't look like a light bulb? But you probably noticed that there's not only copper bulbs that are new, but there's all sorts of new copper things. Like here's some chiseled copper in the background. We also got some copper trap doors. There's some oxidized versions. Here you can also see the lamps in the background of this clip here. You can also see that there is copper variations of doors, which is really cool. You can also see these new lovely copper blocks here, which are called copper grades. And if you look at the corner piece here, you can see they're actually on two sides, so they're not a trap door. What crazy ideas do you have for building with these new copper bulbs and blocks? But that's not the only new block. You can see that all these blocks here are new blocks. These are actually a new type of tuff block. So there's like a clean version of the tuff block. There's some brick version. We also got some clean walls here. You can see some stairs leading away. In this picture, you can see that there's some chisel variations that have these really cool squiggles in them. Overall, I really like just what they're doing with the bricks. They really pop out, and they don't look quite like any other bricks that we have. Though I really wish they would make tile variations of more types of blocks. Currently, we only have the deep slate tiles. If you're a builder, let me know how excited you are for these new blocks. But these new blocks are used in a brand new structure. And this is a structure we've been seeing throughout these clips. And it's called the trial chamber. It's a procedurally generated structure that's underground. So kind of like a mine shaft or a stronghold. And they're made up of the new copper bulb, as well as the copper blocks and the new tuff blocks. It looked really spooky being dimly lit, and some places have these huge vaulted ceilings. The trial chamber has variety in different sizes, with some really small corridors. You can see like a little chest over here, but also some of them can be really big. So whenever you find one of these, it'll be unlike the other ones you found before. The big vaulted area is the main part of the chamber. Then there's a bunch of rooms. Some rooms are really hostile. Some rooms have some cool treasure. It's up to you to explore them all. The trial chambers are completely submerged underground, so you can't see them from the surface. And they only generate within a certain section of the underground area, but they can generate any biome within the overworld. Now, despite these big structures being hidden underground just like the trail runes, these are actually not related to the archaeology thing that we've seen in the trails and tales. But you might notice that they do have the new pots that you can smash open to get additional loot. It looks like the trial chambers will also be booby trapped. As you can see, there is a dispenser here with tripwire hooks, similar to like a jungle temple. Now, these structures are currently pretty common throughout the Minecraft world, but they might adjust that depending on player feedback. Now, despite all the different copper you see in this build, they aren't going to bring in the copper golem that I know a lot of people actually love. So no new copper or tuff golems. They also said that they really like the uniqueness of copper and they wouldn't come in with something like rusty iron. Or at least it wouldn't have the same function as like the copper oxidizing does. Overall, a really cool structure. But the trial chamber houses a new type of spawner. These are called trial spawners, and these are different than normal spawners. You can only find them in the trial chambers, and they only spawn a limited number of mobs, and they keep track of how many mobs are actually currently out. And if you would like kill one of the mobs, then it would try to replenish it to get back up to that number. And how difficult the fight is actually depends on how many players are in the area around it when it first starts up. Now, the difficulty can increase at any time if more players join in. It just can't go down. And once a player gets near, it automatically activates, producing a burst of orange particles, which is the start of the trial. That difficulty will stay with it until you complete the entire trial. and at which point it will finish and it will reward you by spitting out some items. Then the spawner is on cooldown and it won't reactivate. Then after a cooldown, another group of players can come in and experience a new trial fight. Currently there's no limit on how many players can get you the max difficulty of it. So if you come in with 20 players, it'll actually just spawn in more mobs, so it's difficult even with 20 players. This is gonna be great for like servers rather than just doing a dragon fight, or if you have too many people you can kill the dragon a bit too easily. With the spawners, it just gets harder and harder, so it's always challenging. Now I say currently it doesn't adjust with difficulty of your game, so like if you're playing easy or versus playing hard, the spawner won't act any differently, other than the mobs themselves on hard difficulties do more damage in general, so it would actually make it more difficult, without the spawner itself having to do anything special. Now the loot from the spawner does scale depending on how many players were there to start it. They are looking to options that the person can purposely make it more difficult to give yourself an extra challenge. And that way you can get the reward as if there was 5 players taking on, even though there's just one really good player doing it. The blocks in the corner of the spawner let you know what type of spawner it is. You can see this one's ice, that means they'll produce strays. Of course, I would like to try to build farms around these spawners because we got some strays here, and later on they also show some slimes coming out of them. So it'll make for a fun challenge to try to farm everything that comes out of the spawner. So far they show it producing diamonds and emeralds, so I can make a diamond farm with this, although they have showed diamonds coming out of things in the past as loot, but we never got it like in archaeology. And unlike normal spawners, these cannot be broken down very easily, and instead mine very slowly, just like the reinforced deep slate. So you can't easily just get rid of them, which also means that they are explosion proof, and probably can also not be moved by pistons. Now the spawners are customizable for people in creative with the NBT controlling, so you can decide what it's going to produce, how difficult you want to beat it. You can even choose what type of loot it'll put out, or if it put out multiple different loot tables. Their goal with the structure is to have a place where different groups of people can come in at different times and experience the same thing, rather than most structures getting looted, and then there's no real reason to go back to that same structure, especially when you're on servers and every structure around spawn pretty much becomes worthless. Do you think this type of spawner fight will be fun? But there is a new mob inside of these spawners, which is called the Breeze. It's a new hostile mob that can be found inside of the Trail of Chambers, which is a very challenging mob. It moves by jumping around and shooting projectiles of wind energy that explode upon impact, kind of like a blaze fireball. Whenever these projectiles collide with like a player or entity, it will just explode immediately. And these explosions will radiate out a few blocks away from the center. This will do damage as well as knock back any entities. And you'll be able to tell that these explosions are different than their typical explosion by the new type of particles that they put off. Here you can see one of their particles zooming through the air, and the mob itself looks really crazy, almost like a wind version of the blaze. It has like little beady eyes with these really scowling eyebrows and tons of whirling effects, kind of like a little mini tornado. Here you can see the inside of it's made up of 3 different arm-like pieces that go down to the center. And when it's flying in the air, it looks a little bit like the Wither flying. Now currently when killing the Breeze, it doesn't have any new drop. In this clip, you can see that the Breeze is charging towards this player and also shooting off one of their projectiles. It gets really close to the player, and then when they hit the player, explosion goes off, also activates all these trapdoors that are copper trapdoors, as its explosions can actually activate redstone things around, like the trapdoors, levers, and buttons. So it seems like the trapdoors act just like the lamps. When they get a redstone pulse, they flip from being open to closed, and vice versa. This will be really useful in redstone as well. You don't have to have something constantly powered just to keep the trapdoor open. Also really good for builders, because builders that work with like iron trapdoors know that you have to constantly keep them powered to make them stay open. And you think copper is kind of like iron, but now it has this special ability just like the bulbs. You also can see that there is some dispensers here with a button beside it, and also we got a chest here. The main spawner is a stray, but off in the distance we can see it looks like the actual Breeze spawner, and then on the opposite side of that it looks like it might be the slime spawner, which is really cool. So you can actually make a slime farm just from a spawner, kind of like how you got magma cube spawners in the nether dimension. Hopefully we can use the Breeze crazy redstone mechanics to do something cool. What do you think it could be used for? I'm really glad they're coming out with the spawners that get difficult with more players. This is kind of what I was hoping for when they came out with the raids, hoping that they had different difficulty of waves and it got harder and harder and harder, but just keep it up. So hopefully this makes a real challenge for people. Do you think the Breeze will be harder or easier than the Warden? For the Minecraft mob vote for 2023, and will be the mob that will make it into 1.21. They first told us which mob got the least amount of votes, which was the penguins. So then it was down to the crab and the armadillo. And the winner of it was the armadillo. I was really hoping for the crab just because it's going to be useful early game and end game. Were you guys happy that the armadillo won? That means we will get the scutes from the armadillos, which we can use to make dog armor. Now the 1.21 Minecraft version will be coming out mid-2024, probably around late May to early June, right around when people get out of schools and summer vacation starts for the Northern Hemisphere. They also announced that there's going to be a special 15-year anniversary celebration coming in 2024. This is also a super special milestone for me, as it will also be my 15-year anniversary of playing Minecraft, since I've been playing the game since the very beginning, before there was even a survival mode. And I put all my cool experiences about the very early days of Minecraft in this video where I show 1,000 screenshots of the first 10 years. They let us know that there's going to be more information about Minecraft's 15-year anniversary once we get into next year. When did you start playing Minecraft? Minecraft also reached a new milestone of copies sold 300 million. If you didn't know, for many years, Minecraft has been the all-time most purchased game. So they got some pretty cool stats about how many things were done overall per day. 15 million skeletons killed per day, almost 7 million diamonds found per day, 9 million pickaxes crafted. They're pretty crazy stats. Minecraft Legend also is getting some upgrades. They're going to have a Halloween themed creeper clash, which includes new rides, units, and structures, and even a witch ally which throws potions, although personally I've never played the game. Have you played Minecraft Legends? Minecraft's Educational Edition also got an update for their Planet Earth. This is number 3. It's also a DLC and part of the BBC Earth series. The DLC can also be purchased on Marketplace, which immerses the players into the wonderful world of nature and talks about how nature is all connected together. They also mentioned a new Star Wars DLC, which is coming November 7th, where the player can advance from a Padawan all the way to a Jedi Knight. This update's well-rounded between people that like doing combat and adventure, get the trail chambers, people that like to look into new building styles, get the new building blocks, and the new crafter for all the redstoners. Plus much more for a lot of other different groups, like map makers and command block people, which is one of the goals that they're trying to do, is put a little bit of everything when it comes to these updates, so every group gets something new. Now when it comes to all these new changes, they're playing it safe just like last year, where they're only going to show us stuff that they know that's going to make it into the final version. So that way we don't have people complaining that they show like lightning bugs, but no fireflies actually made it into the game. They also don't have a name for the 1.21 update, but it's something they're going to tell us next year in 2024. But it sounds like we're going to start seeing these snapshots with some of the new features in them already. So make sure you guys are subscribed with the bell notification turned on so you don't miss it when I review them in game. Now see how I made automatic dragon farm, beacon farm, and much more, all in this playlist here, or this video that YouTube thinks you'll like. Applause to these lovely folks who have become a supporter of mine. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.